"My esteemed council members," he began, his deep voice resonating through the hall, "for 4 millennia, this council has clung to a fragile peace, relying on weak gestures and words. Yet, a true power emerges in dominance, in force. Today, the Trazak reclaimed their rightful path." He paused, reveling in the shock that rippled across the hall. From his position among the human delegation, General Hamish Rutherford observed the scene, arms folded and expression calm. Rutherford was a man of average build, but carried an air of quiet intensity. His dark hair was graying at the temples, hinting at years of experience that went beyond battles and bloodshed. The others around him, a mix of diplomats and military advisors, shifted uncomfortably, murmuring amongst themselves. Valzer's voice broke through again, louder this time. "Humanity has grown too bold, too widespread, and too dangerous. They wield weapons that threaten the galaxy's order, and their presence taints the purity of our ancient ways. Therefore, the Trazak Dominion formally declares war on the human race. We will eradicate their kind, restore balance, and re-establish strength as the core of our galaxy." Gasps echoed throughout the hall, and representatives of various species exchanged glances of alarm. The idea of war had been unthinkable for so long that many could hardly process the declaration. Eyes turned toward the human delegation, half expecting them to respond with outrage or pleas for diplomacy. Instead, a soft chuckle broke the tense silence. General Rutherford unfolded his arms, a slight smirk playing at his lips as he looked up at Valzer. The Trazak commander's face twisted in confusion, and then in fury as the quiet laugh grew louder, spreading through the human delegation. Rutherford leaned forward, addressing the hall in a steady, almost amused tone. "Commander Valzer, let me make sure I understand. You've chosen to declare war on humanity, fully aware that it's been, 1,000 years since your species last saw combat? While we've been advancing our technology and perfecting our defenses." Valzer's eyes narrowed, a ripple of doubt flashing across his face before he masked it with bravado. "We are warriors by birth, General. We do not require technological crutches. Our strength lies in sheer arrogance," Rutherford interrupted, his voice calm but carrying an edge that silenced the hall. "If you think this will be anything more than a mistake, I'd recommend you reconsider. Humanity hasn't been idle, Commander. We've been preparing, innovating, evolving, and we've ensured that any threat, especially one so ill-conceived, can be handled swiftly." Valzer's face contorted, his scales twitching with suppressed anger, but he held his composure. "Your confidence will be your downfall, human. We are not intimidated by the bravado of your kind." Rutherford shrugged, feigning indifference. "Intimidation? No, Commander, you misunderstand. We don't need intimidation, just facts." He gestured to his colleagues. "We're simply well prepared, and frankly, amused that you'd willingly walk into a confrontation you can't win." Around the hall, the reaction shifted. The initial shock of the Trazak's declaration faded, replaced by growing intrigue in humanity's composed response. Whispers spread among the other council members, some beginning to realize that perhaps the humans were not as vulnerable as they had once thought. Valzer, however, saw the subtle shift in the council's regard as a challenge to his authority. He raised his voice, attempting to reclaim dominance. "So be it then. Laugh while you can. When our forces descend upon your worlds, you'll understand the true meaning of terror." Rutherford didn't flinch, maintaining his calm demeanor. "Commander, you're welcome to try. Just know that for us, this will be an exercise at best. If you think we're frightened, perhaps it's time you learned who humanity truly is." The council watched riveted. Where Valzer had tried to instill fear, General Rutherford's unshakable calm had turned the tide, leaving the Trazak leader looking almost desperate, out of touch. What had started as a threat had shifted into a challenge, one that humanity seemed ready, even eager to meet. Valzer snarled, his pride forcing him to keep up his hostile facade. He turned sharply, signaling the end of his speech with an imposing flourish of his cape, and left the hall, leaving the council members in murmured conversation. Rutherford remained a moment longer, standing tall as the Trazak warlord disappeared. He took a steady breath, then looked to his advisors, a hint of a grin softening his stern features. "Well, gentlemen," he said, voice low yet carrying a sense of anticipation, "looks like we have a war on our hands. Let's show them what they've awakened." The human delegation began to file out, determination in their steps. The council members exchanged glances, their awe evident. There was a sense in the air, an electric charge, a recognition that this was no ordinary declaration. Humanity's quiet confidence had set the stage for something powerful. Earth's military command centers were a hive of activity as the planet mobilized for war. General Hamish Rutherford and his team moved swiftly, but with a calm efficiency that conveyed experience. At Central Command, deep within a fortified base, he oversaw operations alongside his trusted second-in-command, Commander Rex Tiberius, a man known for his stoic nature and tactical brilliance. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as officers relayed reports and adjusted plans on massive holographic displays showing the approaching Trazak fleet. Although the Trazak's aggressive moves dominated the galaxy's attention, humanity's response was deliberate, calculated, and utterly devoid of panic. "Commander Tiberius, what's the status on our orbital defenses?" Rutherford asked, studying the displays. Tiberius, a man of few words but immense presence, replied in his usual measured tone. "All orbital platforms are in position, sir. Each one is primed with kinetic railguns and plasma turrets. Planetary shields are at full power, and our stealth cruisers are ready to engage on your command." Rutherford nodded, satisfied. "Good. Let them come to us. I want to see how much bluster they still have once they hit Earth's wall." They moved to the main briefing room, where elite squad leaders awaited. The air here was different, marked by an undercurrent of excitement rather than fear. These men were the best humanity had to offer, warriors who had trained tirelessly for any threat. One of them, Captain Liam Grant, leaned back, arms folded, a confident smirk on his face. "So, General, when do we get to show these Trazak what real soldiers look like?" Rutherford allowed himself a small grin. "Patience, Captain. You'll get your turn soon enough." Commander Tiberius tapped the display in front of him, pulling up a tactical layout of the Trazak fleet approaching Earth's outer defenses. "They're in for a rude awakening. Their ships may look menacing, but our tech is generations ahead. They've underestimated us." Rutherford turned to address the entire room. "The Trazak have seen us as a minor species, an easy conquest. They assume their brute strength is enough to topple us. But they're about to find out we're not only stronger than they anticipated. We're ready." A ripple of agreement swept through the room, and the soldiers exchanged determined looks. This was what they had trained for, and the idea of proving themselves against such an arrogant foe had only fueled their resolve. The briefing ended, and as the squad leaders dispersed, Rutherford remained with Tiberius, watching the holographic representation of the Trazak fleet inch closer. The Trazak ships were large, heavy, and designed for intimidation, with thick armor plating and colossal energy cannons that had struck terror into countless other species. But Rutherford knew they weren't designed to withstand the kind of defenses Earth had built over the centuries. "Let's give them a warm welcome," Rutherford said, activating the fleet-wide comms. His voice echoed through Earth's command centers and warships alike. "All units, prepare to engage. Maintain formation and follow the protocols. We're not just defending Earth. We're making a statement." The first clash began as the Trazak entered Earth's defensive perimeter. Dozens of human stealth ships, nearly invisible against the void of space, launched precision strikes against the Trazak's heavy cruisers, their advanced laser weapons carving through armor like it was paper. Within minutes, the Trazak fleet found itself in disarray, their confidence shaken as they struggled to adapt to humanity's unconventional tactics. On one of Earth's leading destroyers, Captain Grant and his crew executed maneuvers with pinpoint accuracy, outmaneuvering the Trazak vessels with an ease that belied their lethal effectiveness. "They're coming in too close," Grant reported over the comms, a note of amusement in his voice. "At this rate, we'll have them asking us for mercy in no time." Across the battlefield, the Trazak were scrambling. Their once imposing fleet, designed to crush opponents through sheer brute force, was being outpaced and outgunned at every turn. Valzer, observing the conflict from his command vessel, was livid. He had never anticipated resistance like this. The humans were supposed to be inferior, yet they were dismantling his fleet with alarming efficiency. Rutherford watched the data feed streaming in, noting the rapid deterioration of the Trazak's forces. He turned to Tiberius with a wry smile. "Not quite the unstoppable force they claim to be, are they?" "No, sir," Tiberius replied, a rare glint of amusement in his eyes. "It seems brute strength isn't enough when you're up against ingenuity and preparation." The Trazak, desperate and refusing to admit defeat, attempted a last-ditch assault, sending a squadron of their most formidable fighters in a direct line toward Earth. Rutherford wasted no time. "Activate planetary cannons and engage those fighters. Let's remind them exactly where they're standing." Within seconds, the Earth-based artillery launched a barrage, intercepting the Trazak ships before they could get close. The display filled with flashes of light as ship after ship was obliterated, reduced to debris floating aimlessly in the void. In the control room, Rutherford watched the remnants of the Trazak fleet limping back, their arrogant assault shattered. A murmur of applause and cheers rose around him, but he held up a hand, reminding everyone that this was only the beginning. Turning to Tiberius, Rutherford spoke quietly, yet his words carried the weight of the triumph that was just starting to sink in. "Let them crawl back and tell their leader what they've seen here. They wanted war. Now they'll learn what it means to challenge humanity." Tiberius nodded, a satisfied expression on his face. "They thought this would be easy. Let's make sure they know it won't be." Rutherford took one last look at the tactical map, watching the remnants of the Trazak fleet retreating in broken formation. With a sense of quiet confidence, he signaled to his team, "Prepare for Phase 2. The Trazak wanted to test humanity's strength. Now we're going to give them the full demonstration." In the distant reaches of space, along a desolate front where the Trazak had planned to assert dominance, humanity's response was in full force. The initial skirmishes had taught the Trazak a hard lesson. Human resolve was as advanced as their technology. Now, humanity's fleets were advancing, pushing the Trazak back into their territory with a brutal, disciplined strategy. General Rutherford observed from the command bridge of Valor, Earth's largest and most advanced warship, a behemoth outfitted with the latest weaponry and cloaking tech. The vessel hummed with restrained energy, its engines thrumming with barely contained power. All around him, officers worked seamlessly, a blend of human expertise and AI precision that made the Valor a deadly instrument. Commander Rex Tiberius, standing beside Rutherford, focused on a tactical display showing the layout of the battlefield. "Their forces are regrouping at the Goran Nebula," he noted, gesturing to a sector where clusters of Trazak ships were amassing. "Looks like they're hoping the nebula will give them cover." Rutherford studied the display, his expression unreadable. "They're underestimating our intel. We have all their movements mapped out. Prepare the long-range artillery and tactical drones to cut off any escape routes." Rutherford's voice was calm, yet there was a steely edge that left no room for error. Across the fleet, pilots and soldiers received their orders, each understanding the gravity of their roles. Captain Liam Grant, leading a squadron of high-speed interceptors, grinned as he adjusted his targeting systems. "Looks like we're in for some fun, boys," he said to his squadron. "Stay sharp. They'll be desperate, but that only makes them more predictable." The human fleet moved with a precision that unnerved the Trazak, who were used to overwhelming brute force rather than coordinated strategy. The first wave of Trazak fighters attempted a head-on assault, believing that numbers would turn the tide. But Rutherford had anticipated this, and as soon as the Trazak ships broke formation to attack, humanity's fleet struck from multiple angles. Laser fire and kinetic rounds filled the void, creating a dazzling spectacle of destruction as Trazak ships were obliterated in bursts of light. Every movement of the human fleet was calculated, each ship operating in unison to maximize their advantage. Within minutes, the Trazak vanguard was in shambles, forced to fall back. Rutherford watched the destruction with grim satisfaction. "They wanted to challenge us, Tiberius," he said, his voice low but charged with conviction. "Now they'll learn the cost." In the heart of the battle, Captain Grant led his squadron in a sweeping maneuver, cutting through the Trazak ranks with surgical precision. The Trazak fighters attempted to counter, but their tactics were ill-suited to human agility. Grant's ship darted between enemy vessels, his laser cannons firing with deadly accuracy. "Looks like they weren't ready for a real fight," he muttered, lining up another target and firing a quick burst. Meanwhile, on the ground below the Goran Nebula, human special forces had deployed, led by Lieutenant Jake Mason, a hardened veteran known for his fearless approach. His squad was tasked with sabotaging a Trazak weapons depot on one of the nearby asteroids. Moving silently through the asteroid's craggy terrain, Mason and his men infiltrated the facility, neutralizing guards with swift, calculated precision. "Keep it quiet," Mason murmured, motioning his team forward. "We want to leave them in the dark until it's too late." The team reached the core of the depot, where massive energy generators powered the Trazak defenses in the sector. With a nod, Mason signaled his explosives expert to set charges. The plan was simple: disable the facility, cut off Trazak supply lines, and leave their forces vulnerable. As they finished planning the charges, a loud alarm blared, and Mason's communicator crackled with a warning. "Lieutenant, Trazak reinforcements incoming. They're on to us." Mason smirked, motioning for his team to retreat. "Good. Let them come. We'll be gone before they arrive, and they'll have a surprise waiting for them." As the team extracted, Mason triggered the detonator. A powerful explosion rocked the asteroid, sending a shockwave through the facility as the generators erupted in flames. The Trazak forces attempting to regroup suddenly found themselves without power, their systems disrupted. In space, their fleet faltered, communication scrambling as confusion rippled through their ranks. On the Bridge of Valor, Rutherford received the report with satisfaction. "Perfect timing, Mason," he said over the comm. "Their defenses are collapsing. Begin the final assault." Commander Tiberius adjusted the fleet's formation, preparing for the decisive blow. "All units advance. Target their flagship and ensure no survivors." The human fleet surged forward, weapons blazing as they closed in on the remaining Trazak ships. The Trazak flagship, once an imposing vessel, now appeared vulnerable, outnumbered and outmatched. Valzer, watching from his command center, could only stare in disbelief as his forces were decimated. The Trazak ships attempted one last desperate counterattack, but it was futile. The human fleet surrounded them, each ship moving in perfect coordination to dismantle their defenses. Explosions lit up the battlefield. The Trazak fleet reduced to ruins one ship at a time. With a final volley, the Trazak flagship erupted in a blinding flash, its remains scattering into the darkness of space. Silence fell over the battlefield as the last remnants of the Trazak forces were destroyed. General Rutherford allowed himself a deep breath, a sense of accomplishment settling over him. He turned to Tiberius, who gave a slight nod of approval. "We've done it, sir," Tiberius said, his voice carrying a rare note of satisfaction. Rutherford's gaze remained on the battlefield, his expression thoughtful. This was just the beginning. They challenged humanity, and now they know our strength. He paused, a hint of determination flickering in his eyes. "But we won't stop here. We'll make sure they never forget who they tried to cross." The remaining human ships regrouped, their victory complete. The Trazak threat had been neutralized, but Rutherford knew there was still work to be done. As the smoke cleared and silence settled over the battlefield, the magnitude of humanity's victory resonated across the galaxy. News of the Trazak defeat spread rapidly, shaking every known star system. Species that had once regarded humanity with indifferent curiosity now viewed them with newfound respect, and for many, a glimmer of fear. General Hamish Rutherford stood on the Bridge of Valor, gazing at the vast field of wreckage drifting in space. The remnants of the once mighty Trazak fleet were now nothing but scattered debris, silent testimony to the power that humanity had unleashed. The battle had been hard fought, but the outcome was undeniable. The Trazak Empire, once believed to be invincible, had been utterly humbled by Earth's forces. Commander Rex Tiberius joined Rutherford, his normally stoic expression betraying a hint of pride. "Reports are coming in from across the galaxy, sir. The Galactic Council is in chaos. Even our allies can hardly believe what we accomplished." Rutherford nodded, watching the data streams and intercepted messages coming through. "They've finally seen what we're capable of. Perhaps now they'll understand that humanity is not to be taken lightly." The Valor received a transmission from Earth's Central Command, congratulating the fleet on their victory. Messages poured in from allied worlds, expressing gratitude and astonishment. Humanity's power was no longer a theory. It was a reality, written across the galaxy in blazing victories. In the background, Captain Liam Grant and his squadron returned to the docking bay, their ship scarred but still operational. Grant greeted his fellow soldiers with a confident grin as he disembarked. "That was one for the history books, gentlemen," he said, clapping his fellow pilots on the shoulder. "They thought they'd just walk over us." Meanwhile, down in the command center, Rutherford and Tiberius continued to assess the broader implications of the victory. They knew the Trazak Empire would not easily forget the humiliation they had suffered at humanity's hands. Despite the crushing defeat, remnants of the Trazak forces still lingered, scattered and leaderless, but not entirely defeated. "The Trazak may return, but next time they'll think twice," Tiberius commented, his voice carrying a note of caution. "But we must be vigilant. A cornered foe is often the most dangerous." Rutherford agreed, but his eyes held a glint of satisfaction as he looked back at the tactical display. Let them regroup if they dare. They now know that Earth is no easy target, and humanity stands ready. Amid the aftermath, messages from the Galactic Council arrived, many expressing shock and, for the first time, an open respect for humanity's strength. Council leaders who had once dismissed Earth as a minor player now saw them as an equal, if not a rising superpower. The ambassador of the Andurian Alliance, one of the most respected voices in the Council, transmitted a message directly to Rutherford. "General Rutherford," the ambassador's message read, "your bravery and strategic prowess have proven beyond doubt that humanity's place in the galaxy is far greater than we ever imagined. Your victory today has shaken the foundations of our perception. The galaxy owes you a debt for confronting the Trazak threat so decisively." Rutherford shared the message with his senior officers, a silent acknowledgement of what they had achieved. Earth's military, its people, and its leaders had all risen to the challenge, and the galaxy had no choice but to take notice. As the day wore on, Rutherford addressed his assembled crew and soldiers, their faces a mix of exhaustion and pride. "Today, we have shown the galaxy who we are," he began, his voice resonating with a rare intensity. "Our enemies thought us weak, easily conquered. They learned the truth the hard way. But our strength doesn't end with this battle. We will continue to protect our home, our allies, and any who seek peace." A ripple of applause spread through the room, and the soldiers exchanged nods of respect. They had done more than win a battle. They had secured humanity's place as a force to be reckoned with. After the address, Rutherford returned to the bridge, joined once again by Tiberius. The two men looked out into the vastness of space, a silent moment passing between them as they considered the future. They had fought back against overwhelming odds, defied expectations, and established humanity's strength in the eyes of the galaxy. Rutherford broke the silence, a faint smile crossing his face. "Our place in the galaxy is secured, but there's much left to build and defend. Tiberius nodded, his expression mirroring Rutherford's resolve. "The galaxy will be watching us, sir, but we'll be ready. They wanted to know our strength. They've seen only a glimpse. With the galaxy's eyes now upon them, humanity's journey as a true interstellar power was just beginning. The Trazak's defeat marked the end of one chapter and the start of another, one where humanity would stand as a beacon of resilience and strength in a galaxy filled with allies, rivals, and the ever-present possibility of new challenges. As Valor and the fleet returned home, a powerful sense of unity and purpose filled the air. The Galactic Council's perception of humanity had shifted irreversibly, and Earth's forces stood prepared for whatever lay ahead. Back on Earth, Rutherford and his command staff were celebrated as heroes, not just for their victory, but for securing humanity's legacy. And as news spread throughout the stars, the message was clear. Humanity would no longer be underestimated. The galaxy would remember this day as the dawn of a new era, an era shaped by humanity's unbreakable resolve and undeniable power.